Could you have imagined where we are today? Bitcoin legal tender in a nation state, a public company holding Bitcoin on their balance sheet, BlackRock announcing that they're going, one of the most evil organizations in the world, announcing that they're going to be launching a Bitcoin ETF, and then all of a sudden, the legacy corporate media changes tune. Like, Bitcoin is actually a good thing. What are you talking about? Could you ever have imagined this when you got into the scene?
Well, I kind of could have, because I thought there was a chance that it could become sort of that global reserve currency. And if it's gonna get there at some point in between, all of those things kind of had to happen. What I couldn't imagine was kind of my role. I'm a coder, right? Like I'm a code monkey or whatever, and that's what I was when I first got into this space. Doing podcasts and speaking at conferences and doing stuff like this. That part I didn't imagine. I had no idea that I would have sort of the role, I guess, that I ended up having in this space. And that's the part that's still kind of blowing my mind.
What made you feel so confident that this thing was going to be world reserve currency, especially in the very early days that I think it wasn't so obvious? I mean, I think it's obvious to Bitcoiners, but what made it obvious? Because there's a lot more uncertainty back then, right? There's famous fork wars, 2017. The China ban, which ended up being a blessing. So what made you so certain from the very beginning, the very early days of Bitcoin?
Well, I wasn't certain at the beginning. I just thought it had a chance. So I think the reason why I even had that little bit of hope was because I had studied some Austrian economics and so on after the 2008 great financial crisis. And when I finally saw it in 2011, sort of having the coding and math background and the economics sort of education that I had from 2008 just sort of fell into place. And I was like, okay, I'm not sure if this will get there, but it has a chance. And if it has a chance, then it's plus EV to go get some. And that was sort of the calculation in my mind. It wasn't, I'm completely certain that this is going to be the thing that that takes over the world or whatever. That conviction I developed later on, but at least at that point in time, just having that little bit of like expectation or probability or calculation in my mind of what could happen was enough for me to sort of dive into it.
I kind of want to talk about that because 2011 is very early days. So many things have been built out since then to make Bitcoin more accessible to the masses. What were those early days like?
Yeah, it was very different, obviously, and I think there were maybe 3 exchanges in the entire world, and one of them was Mount Gox. That was sort of where you went to go and trade Bitcoin. Though, everyone would hang out at BitcoinTalk.org, and like, there was no Bitcoin community on Twitter or really even an active Bitcoin subreddit on Reddit. It was just everybody was on Bitcoin Talk, and it wasn't that many people. So I still remember, and I think this forum's still there. News articles on Bitcoin, and you'd maybe see one article a week. That was it. It really didn't have much mind share over people at all. And the little bit of news that you got from the people that were on the forums themselves. You still had stuff like Cassatius coin and people trying out lots of different things. And there were a lot of other sort of exchanges that had gone bankrupt, and like rug pulls of all kinds and things like that. So it was very much sort of the Wild West back then. And there weren't any, education sources or many wallets. You had, I think, a couple of web wallets, all of which rug pulled. You had Bitcoin Core Wallet, but you also had Armory. I think was started around 2011 as well. I ended up working there, which is why I know about it. But there just wasn't very much stuff. So, one of the things I talk about sometimes is, people have this sort of time travel fantasy, especially about Laszlo and the 10,000 Bitcoins for like two pizzas that he traded in the middle of 2010. Like, people like they're it's totally a time travel fantasy, right? Because for them it's, oh, I wish I got in then, and I'd have 10,000 Bitcoin and I'd have like $1 billion or something like that. Well, no, you wouldn't, because there were lots of people that had 10,000 Bitcoin back then, but they didn't hold the Bitcoin, largely because they didn't understand the economics, or they didn't understand the tech. It was sort of like this plaything for them. And when it got to $5, $6, $8, and they bought it at 25 cents, it was like, oh yeah, I'm selling. I want to book the profit or something like that. That's how they were thinking. And $80,000 is like, oh, that's enough for a car. I can go do that, and just sort of like bank their gains or whatever. It was a very difficult sort of journey at the beginning to know that this would be something someday without like having studied a lot of this stuff. And there weren't that many books. Safety published the Bitcoin Standard, I think, in 2016. That was sort of like the first economics work where, like, you could really kind of get why this was significant, or like a viable path for it to sort of become that reserve currency. Very few people understood the tech. I still remember coding a lot of this stuff in 2013. There were so few resources for understanding a lot of that stuff, which is why I ended up writing Programming Bitcoin, because I was incredibly frustrated with the material that was out there for, just like, as a coder. Okay, what the heck do I do? Like, how do I create a wallet, or what do I do with a private key? What the heck is a private key anyway? And how does it work, and why is it secure, and all of that? Like, very little of that content was out there. Like, nowadays there's just so much content, so many books, so much so many podcasts, so many YouTube videos. There are even hardware wallets and things like that. I mean, like, hardware wallets weren't a thing until like 2015. Like, that tells you that it was very, very difficult back then. And like, that conviction early on, very few people had it. And it's honestly only by the grace of God that I have what I have, because I could have been rugged many times. I could have lost it many times. And it was, I got my coins out of Mount Gox in the middle of 2013, for example, thanks to a tip from a friend. It's stuff like that let me sort of hold on to the stack that I have. And it was just really difficult.